Hey everyone, today I'm talking about the one thing that finally ended my back pain on fishing trips, the Perception Pescador Pro 12. If you've ever climbed into a kayak after a long drive only to realize your lower back is screaming before you even cast a line, you're not alone. I spent years wrestling with cheap seats that folded flat or dug into my thighs, and by the third hour I was ready to call it quits. Well, this kayak changed everything. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The seat is the headline here. It's basically a lawn chair that clamps onto the frame, so you can slide it forward, backward, or even angle it like a recliner. On my last trip I spent 6 hours chasing redfish along the marsh, and my back felt like I'd been sitting on a cloud instead of a molded plastic bucket. The mesh back keeps you cool when the sun's blazing, and the thick pads don't flatten out after a season like the thin foam ones do. Storage is another area where this kayak actually makes sense. Up front there's a huge 25-gallon tank well with a bungee system that holds a dry bag, tackle boxes, or even a small ice chest. Behind the seat is another 12-gallon tank well, perfect for a second cooler or your catch bag. I once strapped a 10-pound bag of ice back there and it didn't budge in 6-foot chop. The hatches are big enough to toss a pair of waders in without wrestling them through a tiny ring. Stability is the reason I trust this boat in wind. At 12 feet and 77 pounds, it's long enough to cut through chop but still light enough to drag up the beach single-handed. The Pescador Pro has a shallow arch hole that feels rock-solid when you stand up to cast. I've stood on it in 15-knot gusts while blind casting oyster bars, and it never wobbled. The scupper holes are self-bailing, so you're not sitting in an inch of water after every paddle stroke. Angler-friendly touches are everywhere. There are 2 flush mount rod holders behind the seat plus 2 more on the side rails, so you can keep 4 rods ready without cluttering the deck. The transducer scupper is pre-drilled, so you can drop in a fish finder without drilling your own hole. There's also a built-in cup holder and a small tackle tray molded into the seat base, little things that save trips back to the truck. Durability is where this kayak earns its keep. The single-piece roto-molded hull laughs at sun, salt, and scrapes. I've dragged it over oyster beds and coral without a single gouge, and the UV stable color hasn't faded after 2 seasons. The seat frame is aluminum, so it won't rust if you leave it in the rain, and the straps are heavy-duty nylon that hasn't stretched. On the water it tracks straight, which means less energy wasted correcting course. The skeg is optional, but once I slid it in I noticed I could paddle longer without tiring because the boat wasn't wandering. The paddle keeper on the side rail keeps your spare paddle from rolling off when you switch to rod and reel. Now, nothing's perfect. The seat is fantastic, but if you're over 6 feet tall the foot pegs can feel a little short, so you end up with your knees slightly bent. Also, because the hull is so stable, it's not the fastest kayak if you're trying to cover big distances. It's built for fishing, not racing. All in all, the Perception Pescador Pro 12 is the kayak I wish I'd bought 5 years ago. It solved the back pain, the storage headaches, and the stability worries all at once. If you're tired of fighting your gear every time you hit the water, give this one a look. The link is below and in the description so you can see the latest price and any color options. Happy paddling! For most buyers, the real question is not whether Perception Pescador Pro 12 sit on top fishing kayak with adjustable lawn chair seat, large front and rear storage, 12-foot, Dapper sounds impressive on paper, but whether strengths like premium fishing experience and comfort first actually make daily use feel easier, more dependable, and more worthwhile after the first few days of excitement wear off.